Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The State of the Strong, a Bull Brand podcast. I'm obviously not here alone. I'm here with the beautiful Lirai. How are you doing?
Aren't you just happy to see me?
Every single time we shoot these episodes, you're the most exciting thing about it.
But can I tell you something, ne? Awundiqelelanga.
That?
Bandimhle.
No, did I not say the beautiful Lirai?
Okay, that is true. Sorry. No, he did tell me that I'm beautiful.
If there's one thing I always get bad things from someone over here, but it's fine. It's fine. There's somebody who I'm more excited to see today. Okay, we have entrepreneur, motivational speaker. I'm sure there's so many other things.
No, there's more. Keep going.
And first time book author. If you go into any bookstore and you just look there, self-help, you're going to see this gorgeous man's face with the tattoos and everything and their muscles. That's what I think I look like in real life. Devon, Brough, how are you doing?
So amazing. And you, where you messed up, it would have been the wonderfully, awesomely beautiful.
Oh, that's my problem.
You need more adjectives.
I feel like we should swap chairs at this point. Are you good?
So good.
I'm
Thank
so
you
happy
so
to
much
have
for
you
having
here.
me here. It's such
Yeah.
a pleasure and a blessing to be here with you.
Oh,
So I want to dive into sort of just, obviously, if you want to understand and know what's in the book, you're going to have to read it. But I would love to just, dive into the key points that, you speak about in this. But before we do that, before we get serious, right?
oh, let's play some games.
Let's play some games.
Let's play some games.
Because
I'm
he
keen.
looks like a
I'm a
tough
game
guy.
player.
So let's see how tough he really is.
Do you know what? I think that just by looking at him, I think he's going to break the record.
Here's the thing, though.
Uh-huh.
You got to be tough in the brains.
Okay, let's tell him what we're doing.
Get what I'm saying?
Let's tell him what we're doing.
This is a game called 60 Seconds of Strong.
Amazing.
I am going to give you a bunch of pieces of papers. Yes, plurals.
Papers.
And you just have to read it out and it'll prompt you to basically finish the sentence. Super simple. Get as many as you can. This is not a game.
Okay. It's super serious.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to give
not
you
a game.
And if I
60
get one
seconds.
wrough, the floor opens up and I'll be...
Exactly.
Yeah.
You'll
To the
be
dungeon.
and you get it. I'm glad that you
Where's
understand.
the slime?
I'm glad that you understand. So we're going to give you 60 seconds. It's just you answering whatever comes to mind first. Okay.
It's really easy.
It's really easy. I really trust Devon. I'm so excited. Okay.
Sibu's starting
Ready?
with the timer.
Do I pick them up?
Pick them
I'm
up.
gonna
you
give them
read,
to you.
You keep moving.
So I'm just getting ready so that, I'm giving you a bit of a head start here.
Okay. Okay. The stretches. Let's go. Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
If I had a superpower, it would be reading people's minds. The reality show I would be on is The Ultimate Survivor. If I were an animal, I would be a big bear. COVID has taught me that we need to be able to rely on ourselves. If I won the lotto today, I would buy a big house down in Cape Town and live by the sea. My most used emoji is the laughing emoji. My biggest strength is compassion and understanding. South Africa is the most incredible country in the world. CBD Twitter is in the center of Johannesburg. Love
seconds.
is who I am at my core. The youth of South Africa are indomitable and just amazing. When I was a kid, I dreamed of being a motivational speaker, actually. Social media is a way to feed yourself with healthy, good things that inspire you every day. In 5 years' time, I will be traveling the world and inspiring nations across the globe. Money is the way that we can help to affect the lives of others.
Time.
Oh.
Time. I have to stop you.
Wait, can we just have him read that last
I
one?
want him to
Just
carry
because I
on, just to
want
hear.
Just to
Okay,
hear, but
let's
we're
hear
not
it.
going to count it.
What's it?
The type of parent I would be is one that empowers my children to make their own decisions.
I knew we had to hear that.
I like that.
So I just need to figure out how to count.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
good. I was right. I don't think he beat the
is that
record.
a good number?
But it's one of the highest. I think it's top 2. It's definitely
lovely.
top 2. I think our highest was
It's good you passed.
60.
Nice.
Yeah.
So now
Who's
we
top
can
one?
talk to
I
you.
need to know
it
who
was
do I need to
Lala.
take
we
out?
can't tell him. We can't tell him.
I spoke too soon.
No, it was Lala Hirayama. She
Yeah.
got everything.
I like it.
Yeah,
though.
she
I
just
think
went ham.
if we had like 2 seconds extra. No, she actually went through everything, right?
Yeah, she did go through
Yeah,
everything.
like she probably would have kept going
I'm
if
sure I
it
gave
wasn't
her-
for me.
And she
my-
dances better than
Yeah,
me
she-
anyway,
she-
so it's okay for her to
She
win.
was actually helping Lala a little bit. She was passing those pieces of
But
paper
can I
really
tell you guys
fast.
something? This job of doing the job
It's a lot.
things, it's so difficult. It's scary. I feel like I'm the one answering everything.
Devon, I was listening to some of your answers there, and one that caught me a little bit by surprise is you wanting to grow up to be a motivational speaker. Because I understand that from your early life, you had, for lack of a better word, troubles. So did it go left before that or during that time?
I think the key was I was born into a family of overachievers.
Okay.
So my grandfather was a Springbok rugby player in 1973, a scratch golfer. He pioneered the vaginal hysterectomy, so was a really renowned surgeon and obstetrician. He had a fleet of aircraft that he rented to the Air Force. So he was an all-round amazing human being and super successful. My mother had an all-girl band called Clout in the 70s and 80s. I'll be your substitute.
Okay.
Save me. Take me away to the moonlight.
Wow.
And sing, right?
Yeah,
Sing
singer.
Yeah, singer. There we go. So the issue with that is nobody applied pressure
Sure.
on me,
Really?
but I felt like I had massive shoes that I needed to fill. So my own internal narrative, and bear in mind your story or your narrative you tell is what drives and runs your life. So my narrative was, in order to be deserving of love, I have to be successful. And I think this created a lot of issues for me in my 20s, where my biggest fear was the fear of being inadequate, especially in the eyes of my family after they'd done so well. So in order not to feel inadequate, I had to win at all costs.
Yeah.
And my ego empowered me to be manipulative, divisive, and dishonest in order to win. Because if I'm winning, I can't feel inadequate. But the trade-off of not being a nice human to get to the top and to feel successful was guilt and shame. And guilt and shame is what took me down a road of alcoholism, addiction, where I didn't want to hear the voices in my head.
Yeah.
Because I labeled myself an F-up, a failure, useless. And I didn't want to hear my own negative self-talk. So drugs and alcohol became my escape. And ultimately, we all look for some form of escape when we don't want to deal with the stuff that's going on inside of us.
Damn. You know, so I think you mentioned the fact that you're from a family of overachievers, and I totally understand that pressure of having those shoes to fill that you put on yourself, you know. So what I want to know is, where exactly was the turning point, or sort of what motivated, what was the foundation behind the turning point of, okay, I have to do this to sort of that place of being stuck, as you say.
So I felt really stuck in my 20s because the more I drank and the more I used drugs in order to escape, the worse the things I did to others. So I became the abuser. I was somebody I would never, ever hurt a woman. That's what I stand for. But as an alcoholic addict, I was the abuser. I was the emotional abuser. There was a moment in all my relationships where there was a moment of physical abuse. And that's not who I am. It's something I did under the influence of drugs and alcohol. But the mess just grew and grew and grew. And I would sabotage anything that was good in my life. So as I got into a relationship and that person really grew to love me, I would sabotage and destroy it because I felt undeserving and unworthy. I would build a business. That business would grow. I'd have 10 or 12 staff. I'd be doing great turnover. And again, I would sabotage it because the underlying narrative was I'm undeserving, unworthy, and not enough. And that's because I was carrying around this heavy weight of anger, resentment, guilt, and shame. And those are the 4 emotions that if we don't deal with them, they're healthy in small doses. Guilt should push you to go and apologize or own your stuff around something. But when we hold on to anger, resentment, guilt, and shame, it almost clouds our ability to become successful allow ourselves to love another and be loved by another, because it's this whole narrative of feeling like we're not enough. And the mess was so severe. Twice in my 20s, at 22 and 26, I tried to commit suicide. So I actually woke up the one morning, I remember being 26, and I just felt so hopeless that in that moment, the thought of killing myself and not going through another day was less painful than actually breathing and actually living another day. So I know exactly what it's like to really feel stuck and to feel hopeless. And the turning point for me only came when I was 33. And I really thought that my ego wanted to tell me that you can do this, you've got the tools, you've got the keys, but I really didn't. And at 33 years old, I'd gone on a 6-day bender down in Cape Town. And my phone had been off for 5 days. My family didn't know where I was. I had taken a deposit from a company. I had an agency and was going to do a production for them. Totally didn't do the job, had taken. So there were so many consequences that I had that, again, I was at that point where I felt I didn't have another suicide attempt in me. And on day 6, my brother arrived at the place where I was, a house up in Fresnay. And I just burst into tears when I saw my brother. And for the first time in my life, in a moment of surrender, I put my hand up and I said, I need help. And the turning point for me was going for 4 months of inpatient rehab. And everybody thinks rehab's scary, but I got to the doorstep of that rehab center in the south coast of KZN, and I wanted the change. I was ready. Before then, if you'd sent me to rehab at 24, 25, there was no way I was ready.
Yeah.
But at that moment, at 33, life had brought me to my knees, and there was purpose in the pain.
Yeah.
The purpose in the pain was the change that I now desperately wanted.
Sibu, Devon, you've just said a lot, and I think I really want us to break it down so that we can chew it, because that's a lot to digest, you know? How do you reach a point of being able to so clearly articulate and own it? Like, you have the vocabulary to name, which is something that I think as human beings we struggle with a lot. So having that self-awareness to actually come up with the vocabulary and say, yes, I'm feeling this, but this is what it means. And that is really, I guess, you've unlocked the tool of being able to deal with all of that. How do you get to that point?
I think you've hit the nail on the head with the word awareness, because you can't fix what you can't see.
Sure.
So if you rather walk around not seeing your stuff, it's easier, because then we can play the victim. We can blame or complain. And I think that is why I wrote the book, because I really believe that our mess is there to build our message. And you convert your mess into a message that tests into a testimony. So if anyone's watching this and they feel like they are stuck in their mess, the bigger your mess, the bigger the responsibility you have, because you're perfectly positioned to help the person that you once were.
Yeah.
But that means that you've got to take ownership, and you've got to walk through the mess.
Yeah.
You've got to walk through the pain, and you've got to find the purpose that's buried in it.
Do you think that how you were sort of feeling in your 20s is the general sentiment of a lot of South Africans, people who feel really down, really stuck? They can't get out their situation. There's no jobs, there's no this, there's no that. Do you feel like that's a lot of the people you're speaking to?
Absolutely. I think there are a few points to touch on there. So one is the fact that we prefer to look at other people's stuff than our own.
Sure.
So rather than taking accountability and saying, hey, I'm responsible for where I am in my life, because it's the sum total of your choices and your decisions that you make, whether you have discipline or a lack of discipline, that has created your journey and brought you to the point that you are today. But it's easier to point the finger. It's easier to say, I come from an abusive household, or my father was an alcoholic, or this happened. So we so often play the victim instead of knowing that we're the victor. And just by reframing our story, it's not because this happened to me, this is why I am like this today, but because that happened to me, that's why I can rise above, and I can use that and I can channel that into an empowering narrative, and not a narrative that holds me captive and keeps me stuck. That's the one thing. And then the other is escape. I feel like a lot of people would rather escape than dealing with their own feelings. So it hurts. It's painful to open up wounds from the past. It's hard to look at the relationship you had with your parents or even with yourself. So again, that guilt, shame, anger, resentment, it's tough to go back and open up those stories. But until you do, and until you reframe that story so that the narrative doesn't keep you stuck anymore, you're not going to move forward.
And I think the thing that a lot of people deal with in this world, especially in this country, is sort of that place that you were speaking of where you would build the company and you would have the employees. You are sort of at a steady place and a steady pace of growth. But there's also something that is within you that sort of just keeps stopping you from getting to sort of where you actually are meant to be and fulfilling your full potential. And I think we see that with a lot of, of our people, especially here in South Africa. Where what about South Africa do you think impacted your journey to, I guess, healing that you don't think would have happened had you been from a different place?
Sure. So the interesting part is I actually grew up in Germany. So I was born in South Africa, but when I was 6 months old, my dad's family is all in Germany and my mother's family is here. So for the first 12 years, I grew up in Europe, a very European upbringing, and then came back to South Africa at the age of 12. And there is no place like home. Yeah. South Africa is this beautiful place when people are leaving and spreading their wings and going to, look for greener grass elsewhere. I say, look, the grass is green wherever you water it. And this is my chosen home. And the beautiful thing is that we come from such a dynamic population group and there are so many different people, but that Ubuntu spirit is something that brings us together. Yeah. And there's nothing more beautiful than human connection. That I believe is a gift. And just to touch on one of your points, you've got people like Lazarus Zim, who were born in a township. But instead of going out and drinking, instead of turning to crime, he became a scholar and said that I'm going to study harder than anybody else and I'm not going to allow my circumstance to bring me down. And he went on to become the first black chairman of Anglo American. And if he can do it, anyone can do it. Yeah. But it's all around the mindset, because I think it's easier to feel like a victim if you are living in a circumstance where you're surrounded by poverty. But that's why it's so individual that you have to take the accountability and the ownership and say, I am going to be the one that breaks the chain for my family and for my future generations. And that takes courage.
Yeah, it does. It does take a lot of courage. Speaking of courage, actually, I wanna go back to us talking about addiction. I think it's something that you're definitely not the only South African to go through addiction. If anything, we have a massive drug problem and an even bigger alcohol problem in South Africa. I'm somebody who's been close to people who've had addiction issues, especially alcohol. Yeah. I go to Al-Anon like once a week as to talk to other family members who are going through the same thing. So I want to ask you, especially with what you said about your brother coming to see you, and that's the moment where you were like, I can't keep doing this. Do you have a message for the family members of people who do have addictions, and how to sort of help them get out of that?
Sure. I get family members reaching out to me every week on social media and saying, please help. This is the space that either our son or daughter is in. The first message is, you can't change anybody. So sometimes the saddest truth is that for as long as an addict or alcoholic has a warm roof, a warm bed and a roof over their head and food in the fridge, why do we need to change?
Sure.
For me, there had to be consequence. I had to lose people. I had to lose opportunities. I really had to feel that rock bottom. And sometimes it's hard for a parent because you want to look after your child. But sometimes how you're looking after them is enabling them to stay on the path of addiction and alcoholism. And sometimes they need to be cut off. Sometimes tough love is what an addict needs, because as an addict, I know, like, I'm a great salesperson. I'm in luxury property now. But the reason why I'm good at it is because as an addict alcoholic, I was manipulative and divisive. I knew how to lie. I knew how to bend stories in order to get whatever I wanted. So the first message is sometimes tough love is the only route to go to help somebody to reach their rock bottom, because you can't change for them. The second is also that how somebody acts and behaves has nothing to do about you. It's got to do with their own internal demons that's going on. So a lot of parents or siblings feel, angry, resentful of a family member who is stuck in addiction and stuck in alcoholism. But it's really not. I don't believe people wake up to hurt other people. Sure. I believe people act out based on their own hurt, their own insecurities, and the own stuff that's going on inside of them. And sometimes the hardest thing to do is just to choose unconditional love. Yeah. And anger is a burden. To carry anger towards somebody, it pollutes our whole way of thinking. Yeah. And I don't believe if you want to live a life where you are creating a success, where you're awakening to your true potential and being the human that you are destined to be and stepping into your God-given purpose, there's no space for anger.
Yeah.
So loving unconditionally and understanding that if addiction and alcoholism was part of their journey, that is their journey to walk.
Oh,
Guys, okay, so I have this habit of whenever I'm writing on a piece of paper, if I make any sort of mistake, I can't carry on in that piece of paper. I have to turn the page,
Perfectionist.
which is sometimes it is a good thing because you have things perfect and all of that. But I want to go into. I mean, you've already spoken about the journey of getting to the healing and that turning point in your life, and I know that you speak about it in the book as well, but I want to talk about that when you turn that new page, which isn't starting over because that mess is still there on the other side of the page. What happens? Like, where do you begin and how do you get to a point where you are able to actually make something of yourself and have a best-selling book?
but listen, how do you get over it?
I love that. So just to summarize, get over it. So over is spelled OVA. And that's the steps that I use to go from being an addict alcoholic to turning over R1 billion in the luxury property space within 4 years of coming out of rehab. So that for me was just the underlying pillar of my breakthrough, was just seeing that I could create something and I didn't have to sabotage or destroy it once it was built. And, the first critical pillar is ownership, taking ownership of your past and where you are today. So letting go of anger, resentment, guilt, and shame. You can never go back and change an experience that you've had. And some people turn to alcohol and drugs because they think they've been a victim to an experience, whether that's molestation, rape, something that's happened to them, abuse, betrayal, all our childhood traumas, abuse, betrayal, rejection, disapproval, abandonment. And abandonment is a big thing for a lot of people. But so you can't change what happened to you, but you have 100% power and responsibility to change the meaning that you've attached to that. And you can shift your perspective with any situation. So part of ownership is going back and reprogramming the relationship that you have to that experience. Once you've taken full ownership, now you can craft a vision that gets you excited for the future. So the first pillar, dealing with your past and your present. Second pillar, knowing where you want to be in the future. And this is something that gets you excited to get out of bed in the morning, whether it's cold outside or the middle of winter. When you've got a vision that excites you to the core, that taps into your purpose and your passions, you want to jump out of bed in the morning. And a lot of time people feel stuck because they don't know where they're going. And if you think of your GPS, a GPS is useless unless you put in the destination. It's not going to take you anywhere. So unless you know where you're going, how are you going to make decisions today, tomorrow, that sets you up to reach your goals and dreams? So once you've taken ownership of the past, once you know where you want to go, so you're having a vision for the future, the next is connecting where you are to that vision, which is taking massive action. And that's where barriers to taking action come in. Perfectionism being one of them. So sometimes we have this fear of being judged by others. So we never start because we're scared it's not going to be perfect. Instead of embracing that as humans, we're perfectly imperfect. And that's okay. Software developers, they've got what's called a beta version. You get the beta version, and then there's still bugs. People are still tweaking it. It's far from perfect, but they rather get it into the market and start growing their customer base than not launch something at all. Yeah. And taking action, that's about creating discipline, something very tough for someone who has battled with any form of escape. For me, it was drugs and alcohol, but for other people, relationships can be an escape. Easier to look at my partner than to look at myself. For others, it's work. People obsess about their career, but their home life is a bit of a mess. For others, it could be gym, fitness, gambling. Anything that becomes an obsession has the potential to be an escape. And once you stack these together, taking ownership, crafting a vision, and taking massive action, you'll be surprised how you look back at your life in the next 6 months or a year, and you're in a totally different place.
Oof, I love that. I love that. I'm so excited to read this book. One of my favorite self-help books speaks on habits, and I want to know what kind of habits did you then get? I'm assuming
atomic
post-rehab.
Habits, eh?
You know, Brough. What kind of habits did you sort of get yourself into post-rehab to help you get to where you are today?
So obsession is part of who I am.
Yeah.
It's part of my personality. So instead of fighting who I am, I channel it into areas that will bring me the most good. So fitness for me, having a routine. Habits, rituals, and routines are what set you up for excellence.
Gotcha.
Robin Sharma talks about it all the time. You don't wake up and just become a person of excellence. It's your habits, rituals, and routines that sets you up for that success. Yeah. So for me, it's about self-love. I've got one concept, which is looking at your life like a pizza and accepting that you're a whole human being. And a pizza is made up of 12 different slices, but so often we obsess about finding that romantic partner. Because that slice or our career, those two slices, romantic partner and career, seem like the juiciest slices. But now when either of those get taken away, the rest of the pizza is stale and we've got nothing to feed on. And self-love is about understanding that you're made up of your career, your growth, your education, your service, your family, your friends, your hobbies. There are so many things that make you you. And we should be focusing on all the areas so we're always full. So if a relationship doesn't work out, not a problem. I still have a full pizza. Yeah. If something happens in our career, not a problem. I've still nurtured my friendships, my family, my service and contribution.
Oof. I know this is a bit of a abstract question, but I wanted to hear it from you.
I love abstract.
After everything you've gone through, are you proud of yourself?
I'm super proud of myself. And the question about love was important. Like, I believe that we are beings of love. I believe that anger, resentment, all this stuff pulls us away from who we really are. So on a daily basis, I challenge myself to show up with love in any situation. And I've been through situations that are traumatic, whether it's a betrayal from someone close to me. And even in that moment, instead of becoming angry, where my ego wants me to be angry, I can now transcend that and rise above and choose love. So I can choose to understand that whatever that person has done is not because of me. It's because their own state, their own tools or lack of tools that they have to process whatever they are going through. So instead of getting angry, instead of feeling like a victim, on a day-to-day basis, I'm proud of myself that I can choose love and unconditional understanding and acceptance of others. And I think that for me is part of the journey of enlightenment. When Vision has a book and it's called Unf-withable. And it's meaning that anything in the outside world shouldn't have any effect on your inner state.
Yeah.
And when you get to that level, you're in a powerful place where you can create, where you can manifest, where you can really make a difference, and you can ultimately touch the lives of others. And that's our ultimate purpose. What we're doing here today, someone will watch this video, will watch other episodes in the podcast, and they will be inspired to change something about their own lives. And I really believe that the mess is there, the purpose is to serve others with everything we've gone through.
Ooh. And I've heard, something similar to what you spoke about, which is what I learned was the 5 F's of balancing your life or something like that, which is basically you have to give attention to all of these aspects, your finances, your fitness, your faith, and I forgot the other 2, but they are very important anyways. How do you get to a point where you find out all of those things? But I think once you go into this world of self-help, you can get lost in it and it can be extremely overwhelming because there's just so much. And you realize, okay, this one's talking about how do I get over it? This one's talking about building habits. This one's talking about, and you're just like, oh my gosh, there's so much to do it. And then you find yourself stuck once again. How do you get yourself into that routine of sort of, okay, every day there's just this one thing that I'm going to do, and where do you find it?
So again, it just comes down to discipline.
Sure.
And discipline of becoming a scholar of life. And even if it's not self-help, let's say somebody has just gone into the restaurant business. They've just started as a waiter. There are thousands of hours of free content on YouTube. There are free ebooks. There is so much that you can consume on the restaurant business, connecting with people. So there is no excuse these days not to become an expert at anything that you start doing. So either go all in or don't do it at all. And with personal development, it's the key that in different seasons, different things will resonate with you. In one season, maybe you know that it's anger and forgiveness that you need to work on. Maybe it's with your family. Maybe you're struggling in the area of relationships. Maybe it's the lack of discipline. But when the student is ready, the teacher is always there. And books. So for me, like the routine of reading, the habit of, like, I've got Robin Sharma's app and Tony Robbins' app, and I follow YouTube channels like the School of Greatness, the Mastery Sessions. So social media with lots of people saying, oh, it's a distraction and it's all this garbage and people negativity. I don't follow any of those accounts. So my experience of social media is getting these beautiful curated hits of inspiration of people that I follow talking about love, relationships, growth, healing. So it actually inspires and empowers me on a day-to-day basis.
I can tell a big part of who you are is your passion for this country. What do you think makes South Africans such a strong people?
Sure, I think our resilience, what we've gone through as a country, just rising up through apartheid and like just the inclusivity and how we are today. Like if we look at our the previous generations, there was so much anger. And I think now with our generation, that anger's gone. It's like there is a love for each other as the people. And I think that spirit of connection is really what makes the people so strong. Yeah. And we're in a country, there are so many opportunities in this country. To launch a business in South Africa, you can register a company with CIPC in 24 hours at such a low cost. Costs you like 600 Rand to register a company. Go try to do that in London or America or a first world country. There are so many obstacles to get through. So there is no better place to build a business, to launch a brand, to create your message, and then take it to the world.
Oof. I want to go start. I already have a business. I want to go start another one today.
You know what we need to do now.
Yeah.
You know what we need to do.
Yeah, we need to ask him.
Devon, what is your message of strength to South Africa?
My message of strength is that if you are struggling right now, if you are facing pain, challenges, and obstacles, instead of seeing it as a wall, see it as a staircase. Yeah. The obstacles, the painful situations, the challenges that you are going through are going to get you towards your purpose. And in your darkest moment today, in the future is going to be the light for someone else who is still stuck where you are right now. And life is not about the destination. Happiness is not about one day when. One day when I have this. Happiness is about choosing right now on the journey, no matter where you find yourself, to be grateful and appreciative that even this morning, if you opened your two eyes, those are two gifts.
Yep.
And again, it's just a shift of focus. So in order for us to rise up and be who we are destined to be, all it is choosing love, gratitude, appreciation, and letting go of all the rest.
Oof.
Wow. Thank you. So I've never ever done this on the State of the Strong, but if you are watching this on YouTube, I need you to add this to your watch later now or add it to your playlist. And then if you're on Spotify or wherever else, make sure that you add it to your library because we have we've gone through so much content and it's just like he has them already. It makes sense. But it's just like in one answer, he's just got, okay, this is how you deal with it. Here's the problem, the cause, and this is how you deal with it. Yeah. So I strongly urge everybody watching this and listening to this right now, please make sure that you save it, that you bookmark it, because you are going to get some nuggets in this. And I've never said this about an episode of the State of the Strong.
I want to say one thing that's very important though, and that's like there's nothing special about me. I just followed a simple step-by-step process of taking ownership, knowing where I wanted to be, and then taking massive action. Yeah. I don't have any qualification. I could have, I have a matric, but I never went and studied. So it's not like the answers that are coming, like anybody in life, I'm just winging it. Yeah. Every celebrity that you look up to, Elon Musk, whoever we really idolize, each person is just winging it every single day. No one has a manual. No one has all their stuff together. So as young people, we mustn't feel frustrated or feel like we're never going to get there because every single person, me included, I'm winging it every single day.
Yeah, I love that. Devon, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure being here.
I hope season 2, 3, 4, 5, just one episode per season we bring Devon back.
Done deal.
Right? Just to say, how's the next book going?
So the next book I'm writing, Relationship Mastery, and actually how I wrote the book is I started running workshops. Okay. So I got quite frustrated. I wanted to write a book. I sat in front of a Word document, and writing's not my strong point. But because I've always been a salesman, I've always put presentations together really well. So I got so angry at some point with myself, and this is pain and pleasure. As humans, we are pushed away from pain and we're drawn towards pleasure. So it became so painful not writing the book that I had to do something about it. So I started running a workshop. So I made up a little mock-up ad. I put it on my social media and I said, breakthrough workshop, full day. I chose a venue. I made it 2 weeks ahead. And then lo and behold, the next day, 4 people had paid me. Yeah. So now I was sitting with people's money in my account and I went, oh dear, now I've got to put a workshop together. Yeah. So now I did the first workshop. Just happened to be that a prominent businesswoman was in that workshop. She opened it up to her whole network, and at very next month, I had 22 people at the next workshop. Yeah. And I had 180 slides that I presented, ownership, vision, and action. And then a light bulb moment, I said, hey, if I just expand each slide into 1 or 2 pages, I've got 300 odd pages there, and that's a book. And that's exactly what I did. So again, people think it's rocket science. They're like, no ways you wrote a book. But once I broke it down into simple bite-sized chunks, it was easy to do.
Yeah.
So the second book, the other workshop I run, is called Relationship Mastery. And the premise is that we are so thirsty for love that we will drink poison and expect it to satiate our thirst. And the whole first half of the book talks about the most important relationship you will ever be in. And that's the relationship with yourself.
Yeah.
Because we are never single. Yeah. We're always dating ourselves. And we should be getting to know ourselves on a deeper level when we're not with a partner. Yeah. And then it talks about spotting the green flags, the red flags, what you should be looking for, and how to foster a love that lasts.
Sibu, something to look forward to.
Yeah.
For season 2, or 3 or 4 or 5.
Do we know? Do you have an idea of when you'd like to drop this book?
End of August, beginning of September.
Okay,
So
this
summer season.
knows.
Because
Awesome.
it makes a really good Christmas gift.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much again, Devon. We really
such
loved
a
having
pleasure.
you on the show. As usual. You've
love
been
you.
amazing.
I really do.
It's nice, First, I love myself, obviously, but then it's also nice to be loved by you. See, I'm
There's a
learning
lot of
from
love
Devon.
in this room. I can
See?
feel it.
If there's anything we've learned today, it's to lead with love. Thank you very much for watching this episode of The State of the Strong. We'll see you guys soon. Bye.